This is what the speed means, actually. I was giving you a figure in terms of unicorn and all that. We actually did a very interesting study and found out it took LinkedIn 11 years to become unicorn, right? We picked up 20 unicorns, which became unicorn from zero. Yeah, from a start in less than 3 years, actually. And it's happening in India. Have you ever heard of a company called Udaan? It's a B2B marketplace, became unicorn in less than 3 years, actually. And when they become unicorn, guess what do? They take you head on, especially those large enterprises, actually. Because they have enough money in their wallet, in their bank account, to disrupt you, actually. And that's the problem people are beginning to face, actually. Yeah? People laughed when Airbnb came as a concept, actually. I remember last year there was a tweet that came from JW Marriott, actually. I'm actually surprised we own more properties. We have more rooms in the place, actually. I can't fathom the fact, this is JW Marriott saying that, someone who doesn't own a single property has a higher market cap than I have, which is at $14 billion. And he was talking about Airbnb. Right? So simple. New era of platforms. We talked about new people, right? Watch out, 1 billion, some people call it, millennial. We call them digital natives. The reason we call them digital natives, because they are never going to talk to you when they interact with you. And I see it at home. I've got a 17-year-old daughter. Guess what happens? We have a duplex house. When she has to tell me, Dad, food is ready, Mama is calling you, she'll send me a text, actually. I said, we're same home, just call me. She said, no, that's easier, actually, because I was listening to music. I said, that's okay. That's the way they're going to deal with you. Be ready. Right? So I said, what do you want to do in future? She gave me 5 options. I said, how are you going to get it? He says, who's looking for a job? So I said, what is it? He says, I'll do this project. Get ready for gig economy, actually, because you will not be able to hire them. They can give you at best 2 hours of their time. Consider yourself lucky. That's the era you are entering. That's the era you're going to be working with. And if you thought it's long drawn, no. Next 18 months. And it's going to knock on your door. Well, I'm not saying that. Yale is saying that. In next 10 years, things are going to change, actually. So look at the 4th trend that's driving the market and take it home. Trend number 1. You need to do dual transformation because digital disruption is going to hit you, actually. What do I mean by dual transformation? One simple thing. Whatever you are doing, it's not that you can pick it up and throw out of the window because it gives you revenue. Ensure that what is new, that's going to come to you at a far better speed. That's going to ensure that your digital revenue moves from 10% to 40%. Ensure that you are working on it together, actually. It's not either an or, but it's going to transition very fast, actually. Rising dominance of digital technology, and that's called platform. Is retail a platform? Yes. Is car a platform? Yes. Because moving forward, you're not going to own a car. It's going to be a platform. You're going to use it. That's how connected car is going to work, actually. There's no other way connected car is required, actually. The reason 2 car needs to get connected because nobody needs to own it, actually. Who thought I'll not going to a shop and buy stuff, actually? Who thought I'm going to go to a platform and I'll start buying them, actually? Who thought to have a meeting, I didn't need to meet the people? I'm going to use a platform and multiple people are going to get connected. I'm going to share the room. I'm going to have an identity. I'm going to show them a demo. And they're going to be a virtual realization and virtual reality, actually. In fact, people do not have to travel to fix faults into manufacturing unit. Using virtual reality training happens to get fixed, actually. And I'm giving deliberately examples where you can't even imagine, actually, where people thought that physical requirement ought to be present there. Okay? It's important, whatever you do, consider that your business model is going to get disrupted. Look for innovative business model. And guess what? It's not going to come from your company, actually. It's going to come from people who are outside, who are hunger and desire to change, and who can give more time. Guess what keeps you busy? I'll tell you what keeps you busy. You're going to go home and then start worrying about your job, how to run it, and that's where you're going to spend 90% of the time. Guess what? The people who disrupt spend 90% of the time. And if anyone says in corporate fail fast, it's a myth. Because once you fail, somebody else takes over your job. And it's never going to happen. It's culture. Takes time to move culture. So there's somebody else who's failing fast is going to come at you hard, actually. And the rise of Decacon. How many of you understand what Decacon is? It's a company with $10 billion market cap. Heard of Paytm? The last round was raised at that. And 4 years back, some bankers said that, this paying money through mobile phone is not going to exist. But that doesn't exist, actually. They control 80%, and they've also started a bank, and they're taking those guys head on, actually. See, this is what happens, actually. Bank created out of a mobile phone, actually. And you thought, I need to go to a bank to do the transaction, actually. And there are multitudes of them, Revolut, Atom, and all that. Go to UK and you'll say that all the youngsters, millennial, digital natives, they have an account with Atom Bank. Why? Because they don't trust someone like an advisor who's going to give them a wealth advisory. Everything they do, they have a very clear pie chart which says that you spend this, you spend this, you spend this. Based on this, I think you should be doing this, actually. It's cool. Yeah? More than cool, I don't trust your intention. You're going to sell me this product because you think you're going to make money out of that. But this is not selling any product to me, actually. You see, the transparency we talk about, that's what is entering, actually. That's called user experience. And that's what the legacy banks are struggling to do that, actually. Look to your left and right-hand side, actually. I picked up China and India because we were talking about China and all that, actually, right? Look at it. Can you ever imagine a company which is born even less than 10 years, actually, talking about a valuation of $70 billion? Actually. Not really, right? That's interesting things happening, actually. Alipay didn't exist 6 years back, actually. The last round they raised, actually, and financial, actually, $120 billion. That's the future, you see that. Are they going to disrupt a bank? Yeah, absolutely. Is Amazon going to be a bank in future? Yeah. Some of the interviews we have done with the large banking CEOs actually tell us that, look, there is maybe a possibility that I may become, and I'm saying on record of a board member and a CFO of a large bank, saying that there may be a possibility because of the regulatory and compliance, I'll become the BPO arm for the new age banks because I'll do all the regulatory and compliance, and they'll do the customer experience, actually. Because I don't think I can catch up with them in terms of customer experience, actually. That's coming with you. A banker saying, with 20 years of experience, large listed bank in NYSE. I was stunned for 2 hours when I was listening to this, actually. That's the realization in the boardroom level, actually. And that's going to hit you. Here, look at it, what has happened from 2014. Number of unicorn being, on an average, 60 unicorn, actually. That's a sizable, if someone is giving you money at a valuation of $1 billion, you're talking about 7,000 crore. 7,000 crore as your valuation, actually. Anyone wants to buy your share, that's the valuation you have. Doesn't matter what your revenues are, actually. That's the potential, that's the belief people have. See what's happening. Consistently, 50 to 60 unicorn being churned out, and it's going to grow even faster, actually. So, very simple message. If you have a chief strategy officer and you have a chief digital officer, please do whatever you want to do. Our take is very simple. You're going to have only one strategy, and that's a digital strategy. If you don't have a digital strategy, God bless you. And that's the role someone is going to do for you, that I'm only doing digital strategy. So you call him or her, whatever you want to call, actually. These two roles not going to exist, actually, because there's no other strategy you can work on. Okay. So in case you're worried where it's going to strike, actually, AI is here to stay. I agree with you that forget 5 years, I see every 1 year there are things I used to do, there is an app available, and that skill is no longer required, actually. If someone says I don't have a job, I can tell you the amount of jobs required in the industry where people are not able to find those people is just enormous. There are two sides to AI. There is a mathematical side. The other side is who's going to train that machine? Cognitive side, actually. Guess who can do that, actually? Everyone who's in a psychology and a psychologist only can train that, actually. That's the way. If you have a chatbot, it requires training. And that's the reason people have stopped calling it a chatbot. What do they call? Conversational AI, actually. Because how do you have a conversation? As if you're talking to a human being, actually. On that note, let me just tell you what happens here, actually. This is by industry the AI adoption is happening. There's no other choice for these guys to automate and then ensure that, AI playing a role, actually. What is another thing which is important is that look at 17, 16, and 18, actually. And it's going to impact our BPO industry in a big way, actually, because all those jobs either has already been automated or in the process of automating. And I'm talking to a number of CEOs of BPO companies, says that, look, HR is getting automated. Customer experience is getting automated, actually. Customer complaints are getting automated, actually. A repetitive process is getting automated with a term called RPA. How many of you have heard about it? It stands for robotic process automation. Everything that's a process that can be automated, can be trained, can be done by a software robot, actually. So you don't need 100 people. And what it is doing to a service economy is that saying, I'm not sure somebody is going to ask me to deploy 100 people and then bring it to India and there is a cost arbitrage. No, it doesn't exist anymore because technology is going to do that. But the good thing is that the technology requires a cognitive training, and that is what it needs to be done, actually. We actually looked at it, how the RP and outsourcing look, actually. And I know none of you can read, actually. That wasn't the idea, actually. But, it's interesting that there was a large BPO company, it's publicly listed, and we work with their board and a CEO, actually, and said, look, help us create 8 new products, actually. Because I don't see 3 years from now, something what we do is going to be relevant, actually. Voice-based BPOs, the text-based BPOs and all that. And when we started talking about conversational AI and all that, actually. The problem with these things is that it requires human to train them for it to start functioning on their own. Today, if you are banking with your bank and if you are chatting with them online, 70% of the time, all your banking queries, which includes your account opening, account balance, anything you look for, there is no human involved in that. You're getting answers purely based on what you're writing. It's called natural language processing. And it's very, very important. There are 30 banks we spoke to. We said, what's your number one priority? They said, only one, customer experience. I said, why did you ask? He says, till today, someone comes to my bank to open the account. After that, he never shows up. Or she also never shows up, actually. So he says, when you're not talking to someone face to face, guess what they are talking to? They're talking through a digital channel. And guess what their expectations are? Their expectations are very simple. That I need to interact through your website, and I want the same cool experience what I get on WhatsApp. We did it for retail banking, insurance. There are plenty of them, actually. The reason I put it together, this customer experience and all that, for you, it's a customer experience. There are 150 startups, actually. They're looking at it very differently. Simple thing is, what happens when someone goes into a car showroom, actually? How do you interact with them? What kind of a thing they're looking at? I was surprised, actually, that I don't know how many of you know, XUV of Mahindra got actually launched on a web, actually. Right? So interesting. Who thought that you will never interact with a car salesperson to buy a car, actually? Doesn't happen. And increasingly going to happen like that. Trade operations. It's not that people are not doing it, actually. We've mapped out plenty of examples, actually. JP Morgan Chase, actually, they looked at the entire coin, actually. Basically, it's their entire legal processing, purchase and all that. They brought it down, saved around 360 hours. I'm giving you these examples because people are awake, they're trying to do that, but the biggest thing they are working with is that who's going to disrupt me, actually. And as the digitization takes place, actually, you're not going to have US Marshals or you're going to have bouncers who's going to deal with you that you're doing a fraud. You need a different kind of a bouncer, which is going to be a digital bouncer who's going to look at you and worry about how to handle your behavior, actually. So now that you're anxious and I have your attention, actually, very simple thing, what do you do when you go home? Actually? Yeah? It's important, while you spend 90% of your time protecting your revenue, run your job, whatever you want to do, ensure that you're spending time in periphery, how it's going to impact you, because it's coming to you, it's coming fast, actually. Focus on your changing customer behavior, because you like it or you don't like it, actually. They deal differently. They have different experience. They order food very differently. Nobody goes to a restaurant, they say, yeah, who's going to go? There's going to be a traffic jam. Let me order from Swiggy, actually. Right? And you say, oh, I feel like eating, maybe a chocolate lava cake at 11 o'clock in the night, actually. Earlier we used to say, go to sleep, man. Get up in the morning, then we'll worry about it. So hang on a sec, let me order it, actually. Changing behavior, guys. They want instant gratification, gig economy. Make sure your strategy is not trapped by your past, actually. It's a very future forward-looking strategy, actually. You got to adopt dual transformation. You will, it's not that you're going to, junk whatever you're doing, actually. Ensure that you're adopting your digital transformation as soon as possible, actually. And if you don't change, they're going to be a victim of complacency. Kodak, very abused word, actually. Poor guy, they didn't have any fault, actually. If we were there, we would have done it because they claimed 90% of the market. They're a chemical company, actually, right? They never thought that. And guess what? They created the first digital camera. Having fun? Anxious? Awake? Let me just tell you, it's not that nothing is happening. There are people working in this, and I've got a privilege to, ask. And the reason I'm not allowing you to ask question and answer, because there are people who are going to answer some of the questions, and then we're going to go through the session, actually. So, the way it worked out, actually, I wanted to give the statistics why it is important, actually. And, I'm very happy, Kamal, you came in and laid the groundwork and, said that we need to have digital transformation. We need to work with startups and all that.